Good morning, everyone. So today you will be having a continuation of the module 3. So in yesterday class, I have discussed about declare what the class will contain, what do you mean by class, what the class will contain, and what are all the instance variables and all, declaring the instance variables and all. So actually I have to keep the remind with the previous class. So a class will contain two things. One is the shape of an object and second one is nature of an object. Shape of the object will be defined by the instance variables or data members of the class, and nature of an object, what the instance variables are going to do, or what the data members are going to do, that will be described by the methods. So in a yesterday class, I have discussed with how the objects will be created and how the instance variables will be created. So today I'm going to discuss with what is the nature of an object. So yesterday class we discussed the shape of an object. So we for example we considered a box class. So inside the box class we have three variables. One is width, height and depth. So all this width, height and depth are the instance variables, also called as data members of the class. So after that, what does the use of these data members? Why you using that width, height, and depth? What you are going to calculate? That will be specified by the another concept called nature of an object. What these objects are going to do. So that is in order to overcome the concept of nature of an object, we are going for a concept called introducing methods. So method is a member function. So keep in your mind, while creating a class, you will be having data members and member functions. So now also you are getting the same concept, but the names are different. There you are calling the data members. Now we call it as instance variables. There you are calling a member function. Now you are calling that one as methods. That is the only change you are having. So what the method or data member functions will contain? Member function make use of data members and compute something. ಡೇಟಾ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ನ ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ಸ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ನೀನು ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಆ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಕೋಡನ್ನು ಏನಂತೀವಿ, ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್. ಸೊ as mentioned, usually consist of two things. One is instance variables called as data members and member functions called as methods. So topic is large because it gives so much power and flexibility. So this is the general form of the method. So first we comes to the type. Type means what is the output you are getting. The output return data type is the type. Next you get the function name. So inside the function name you may have parameter list or without the parameter list also. So that is the, and followed with the code to compute something. So here type specifies the type of data returned. It can be valid type. It can type means data type. It can be int, float, char, string, whatever you want. So including the class types. The name is specified by the name. It should be a legal identifier other than keyword. So, so parameter list. Parameter list is set of input parameters or instance variables what you are going to give, and they are separated by comma. So finally, after inside the method, you write n number of code to compute something. So after you compute, that computed thing can be returned from class to the main function. So now what are all the methods you are going to write, it will be placed inside the class only. So from class you move to the main function. For that purpose, you are going to have a return value. Return the value from called function to calling function. So and now we see an example, adding a method to the box class. So in the previously in yesterday class, I have discussed with a box class. So if you want to have, I will show you the concept. So box class. So take this program. So this is the program what I have considered here, class box. So all these are data members that are instance variables. No methods or member functions are called here. Next, you call another class called box demo. Inside that, you create an object called my box and output variable wall, that is volume. Now we assign a values. My box, my box is an object which belongs to box class. So box class will contain how many instance variables? One is width, height, and depth. So give all the values, and now you are going to calculate the volume. So volume is calculated here. So using the same thing, but the thing is, this volume, the code what you are going to calculate is not placed inside this box class. So keep in your mind that is the only change you are going to do from this particular program. So you now you call a method and place this particular code, place this particular code. That is the only thing. Okay, so here you are calculating, giving the values here and calculating in this class only, but you are giving the values here, and for now you will be calculating the values from this particular class. So understand very clearly. So in this particular thing, in the first program what you are seeing, you are giving the values and you are calculating the volume inside the class box demo. But in our concept now, so keep this one in your mind, you're giving values and calculating at one place. Okay, so now you come for the our concept. So coming for our concept, now you see this is the change what you are doing. So in the previous program, you have called only the instance variables, that is class double width, double height, double depth, but there is no function. You have not called this function part in the previous program, but now you are adding a method called volume. Inside that volume, you are calculating and printing the statement. So this is the extra part what you are going to have. So this is the method. So this now you come for the box demo. Now you create inside the main, you create two objects, my box one and my box one. My box one, it is the concept for declaring an object. What is the object? It is my box one, which belongs to box type, which belongs to box type. Similarly, my box 2, which belongs to box type. So once the two objects are created, my box 1 and my box 2, we are going to assign the values for each box to calculate something. So assigning as my box one points to box. So box will have how many variables? Three variables. Now for box one you give three values and for box two you give three values. So assigning the values you are doing here. So that is my box one dot width is equal to height depth. Similarly my box two width height depth. So once you give the values, now you compute. So in the previous program, we have computed wall is equal to my box 1 dot width star my box 1 dot height star my box 1 dot depth. But now you are calling a function, we are calling a function called mybox1.volume. This code is not there in the previous program. So, but now you are calling a function mybox1.volume. When you call, this is called as a calling function. This object mybox1 is calling a function volume, which is placed inside the class box. So now mybox1.volume will come here, and finally you'll be having the thing you see here, it is print statement. Print statement means it will execute the statement and cursor remains in same line only, and next particular statement will be executed. So when you execute mybox1.volume, okay, so cursor will move from mybox1, from calling function volume to called function, that is volume, which is placed inside class box. So now volume is will be printed. Volume is now it will be calculating my box 1 dot width star my box 1 dot height star my box 1 dot depth. So finally you will be getting the values 10 star 20 star 15 is equal to something around 3000. So similarly this is the, so as you give the values, As you give the values, you'll be considering my box one dot 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 dot. And in order to call the functions also, you'll be having a dot operator only. So dot operator on left, it takes an object, and right, it takes an instance variable or a method name. So here my box one is an object of box class, and on right of the dot you'll be having width, height, depth. On right you'll be having a volume. So on right of the dot operator you'll be having a instance variables or a method name. So this is the first adding a method. What is the method added? It is the volume. So volume is the method headed. So coming for the next, it will give you the explanation. When the mybox1 is executed, Java runtime transfers the control to the code inside volume. So it will it will jump from, it will jump from, it will jump from box demo 3, box demo 3 to class box. So class box demo 3, you contain a calling function, and class box you contain a called function. This class box is different, this one is different. You are having two classes here. From this class you are calling the date instance variables as well as member functions or methods. So after statements are executed, control is returned to calling routine. So now you see here, so it now the control will not be moved. So when you give mybox1 dot volume, so from calling function it is going to called function and execute the statements, and cursor control remains there only. So where the control remains, control will print this particular statement and will remain there only until any other statements are present. So here we are not making any return statements, directly you are going for printing. When you have return statement, it will return from the value is been returned from box to, from called function to calling function. So keep in your mind, is there is no return function. So that we will discuss in the next coming topic. So similarly, after mybox1 dot value, now you are printing. The values are printed from class box only, and these values are not returned to this particular class box demo 3. So method uses instance variable, it does so directly. So now you come for the previous program only. So here you are directly calling when you have mybox1 dot volume. So here we are directly calling as width, height, and depth. We are not specifying whether it is of mybox1 or mybox2. Okay, so my box one in the execute ಮಾಡ್ತಿದೀವ, my box 2 the execute you are not telling. So just you are telling my box 1 dot volume. So here we assign the values my box 1 dot width, my box 1 dot height, my box 1 dot depth. Similarly, when you call my box 2 dot volume, so all the inside this you will be having my box 2 dot width, height, and depth of my box 2 only. So object is called, but no values are given here. So that's why we take it as this means the width, height, and depth inside the main implicitly refer to the copies of those variables in the object that invoke volume. That invoke volume, who is invoking the volume? The my box one is invoking, so that values will be placed inside this width, height, and depth only. Okay, so now you come for the next interesting concept, returning a value. So in the previous, you come for this program, are you returning any value from called function to calling function? So where is the calling function? Calling function is mybox1 dot volume. Now the control is transferred from calling function to called function, that is volume. So are you going to return any value from this volume to the called function? Calling function? No, you are not returning, you are just printing the statements from this class only. But when you come for returning a value, you are returning a value from called function to calling function. So that's how we will see in this particular topic. The better way to implement a volume is to compute the volume of the box and compute the volume of the box and return the result to the caller. So caller is mybox1 dot volume. So called is volume. So values are printed there only. The value what it is calculated is not transferred, it is not returned to the calling function. So at that time we go for a returning a value concept. So in order to return the value, you have to consider this particular program. So consider the program. So here is the program what you have discussed. So same program you are having. So class name is box. So under box you are called three instance variables, that is width, height and depth. So next you call a member function or a method called volume. So volume will return width, height, depth. So now you, in the previous program we have used system.out.print and system.out.println. So the print, it is going to print the statements from that particular class box only, but in this particular program it will return the value from called function, from return to volume, return variable called volume. So which is the return variable here? It is the return variable is volume. So come for those particular, there you are having system.out.print. Now you are having called return. So once it is going to calculate the width, height and depth, it is going to return from called function to calling function. So similarly, that is the instance variables and this is the member function. Now you come for the box demo 4. Now you create two objects, my box 1, my box 2. Next assign the values for my box 1 with 3 parameters and my box 2 with 3 parameters. Now rather than calling my box 1 dot volume, so my box 1 dot volume is, we are going to assign it to the variable called wall. Okay, similarly we are printing the statement volume is with plus wall. Similarly we are calling my box 2 dot volume and we are assigning the value to wall. So and volume is printing. So now you see, in the previous example we have only called my box 1 dot volume and my box 2 dot volume, but now we are going to have a return value. So when you are going to return from, we are having a return statement means it will return from called function to calling function, and that calling function, that return value is stored in a variable, return variable called volume, and now it has been printed. That is the change you are having. So there you are directly going for system.out.println, but now you are having a return statement that will return from volume to my box 1 dot volume, and that is value which is returned is stored in a variable called wall. What this wall is called? Wall is called as a return variable. Okay, so now you come for the program. When volume function is called, it is put on the right hand side of the assignment. On left, when volume function, it is put on the right hand side, that is my box 1 dot volume. On left hand side we take a variable called wall that will receive the value returned by volume. So that executes the statement my box 1 dot value that will be stored in variable wall. There are two important things to understand about returning the value. The type of the data returned, the type of the data returned must be compatible with the return type. So type of the data, what is the type of the data you have returned? So type of data is double. Okay, so type of the data you have returned belongs to double. So what was the variable you have taken? So what is the variable you have taken? It is wall. So wall should also belongs to double data type only. That is the concept. That is the first point you are telling. So return value ya data type ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ನೀನ್ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡೋ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಅದೇ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್. The type of the data returned must be compatible with return type. The variable receiving the value returned by the method must be compatible with return type specified by the method. So both are the same. So this is the program which are used to as return a value using return statement. So are you people understanding? So next you come. So here in this method, so where are the methods? Method name is volume. What are the instance variables? Instance variables are width, height, and depth. And what are the objects? Objects are my box 1 and my box 2. Okay, so now when you call a function, you are not specifying any parameters. So parameters are not specified inside. Actually, a function will have a parameter, and that parameter, as the function will contain calling function and called function, the parameters inside the calling function are called as actual parameters, and the parameters outside the in called function are called as a formal parameters. The actual calling function will be placed inside the main, called function will be placed outside the main. So as you all know, now you see adding a method that takes parameters. So now you add a method that will take parameter. So parameter means where you are going to give. So you are going to give a parameter inside this brackets. So keep in your mind, a function call ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ವಾ, function inside the function you are giving a parameters. So as you all know that giving the parameters. So first we have seen without parameter and with parameter. Without parameter means there will be nothing. So in the previous example also, here you have taken my box one dot volume. This volume is a method with no parameter. But when you come, this is without parameter, and this one is with parameter. So for that you taken in square, return 10 star 10. So that way square is a method which returns a value 100. But if you want to give with a parameter, so giving with a parameter means, so here you have to take return type, function name with parameter. Parameter I have taken it as int I. So return I star I. While this method, it will return the value 10 squared. Its use is very limited. So when you are going to use this one will always, when you execute this function int square, so it will return always the 100 only. There will be no change. Suppose if you want to find for different numbers, so then you have to go for the concept called parameters. So parameter will makes you whatever value it is called, it will square the thing what is the input you have given. So here is an example. So you have taken xy, x is equal to square of 5, so it is with parameter. So square of 5, return I star I. So what is I value? I value is 5. So when you square of 5, you substitute I is equal to 5, so return 5 star 5 is equal to 25. So x equals 25. Similarly, square of 9, x equals, now you take y is equal to 2. So rather than giving the directly the values for the parameter I, now you are assigning a value to a variable, and that variable is assigning the value to a parameter I. So in previous examples, so here we are having square of 5. 5 will be assigned to I. So next you have square of 9. 9 will be assigned to I. Now in place of directly substituting the values for a parameter, now you assign a value for a variable. So that's why we are taking y is equal to 2. Next x is equal to square of y. Rather than giving the value to directly here, now you are storing it into the parameter y, and that parameter y is being assigned to variable, that is a parameter I. So you to what you have, that will be stored in y. Now y is pointing to I. So it is important to keep parameter and argument straight. So parameter is a variable defined which receives the value when method is called. Receives ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವೇನಂತೀವಿ. So this one, what values you are going to give in the calling function, that one is called as a parameter. So inside that what you give, that is called as the argument. And what is the function you have taken? Int I. ಇದನ್ನ I na parameter ಅಂತೀವಿ. To 5 na argument ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. We are giving an argument 5 to the parameter I. So keep in your mind, I gain, it is called function. ಕಾಲಿಂಗ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಆಫ್ 5 ಅಂತ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ. ಸೊ 5 is called as an argument which is given for a parameter I. Similarly 9 is an argument which is given for the parameter I. Similarly y is an argument. Okay, y is an argument, you are going to give it for the parameter I. Okay, so argument is a value that is passed to a method. Okay, that is passed to a method. So you can use a parameterized method to improve box class. Impressing the dimensions has to be set separately. So now you can take square of 5, square of 9, square of 5. But in order to set the dimensions, you come for this concept. So previously I have taken one object, two objects, my box 1 and my box 2. My box 1 is, is an object of class box. Class box. Box will contain three variables: width, height, depth. While giving the values, you can use the statements like my box 1 dot width, height, and depth. Okay, so dimensions. If there are n number of objects of type box, so consider the example, there are 100 objects. So my box 1, my box 2, my box 3, dot dot dot, my box 100. So giving the values for each and every box, like using this statement, using my box 1 dot, for one object you have to take three statements. Okay, similarly for 100 objects it will go for 300 lines, so 300 statements. So that in order to overcome the creation of more objects and assigning the values, you have it is a trouble. So ಅದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ when you are having more number of objects, and while giving the values for instance variables, if the number of instance variables are more, then program becomes lengthy and clumsy. Okay, in order to overcome that particular reason, so what is the reason? If n number of objects, one my box 1, okay, my box 2, okay, my box 3, okay. Suppose if you want to take 100 objects, my box 1 to my box 100, now you are going to have a problem. So at that time you use this particular statement. So that in order to overcome, we use a method called setDim. SetDim method is used to set the dimensions of each box. So for example, rather than giving my box 1 dot width, height, and depth, that can be, we can overcome using my box 1 dot setDim of 10 comma 20 comma 15. So this will assign the values 10 for width, 20 for height, 15 for depth. So this is the program what you're going to take. So same program, rather than giving the values my box 1 dot width, 1 dot height, 1 dot depth, my box 2 dot width, you are taking only these changes. So we take two classes, one for class box which contain instance variables and methods. The other one is creating the object, giving the values, and output calling the methods. So class box, so you take the three parameters width, height, depth. So compute double volume and it is going to return the value. Now you call a function called setDim. So where they set a dimension, it should be placed within this particular box only. So where you are given the instance variables, where you have called the methods volume, there only you have to give the setDim method. So you will be taking set the dimensions, setDim of double W, double height, double depth. Width is equal to W, height is equal to H, depth is equal to D. Okay, after you call a setDim operation, now you come for the main function. So for that you take a box demo, main function, create two objects. One is my box 1 is equal to new box, my box 2 dot new box. Then we take a output variable called wall, as you have considered the return statement here. So for that purpose, you have to take a return variable wall. Okay, so now you give the values for objects. So my box 1 dot set dim of 10, 20, 15, mybox2.setDim of 369. So this using setDim operation, rather than taking three statements in each line, mybox1 dot width height depth, you can give it in single line. That is the small change you can have it for parameterized method. So similarly, we give the values for mybox1, mybox2. So once the values you given, you compute the volume of each box. So volume we can call it by method called mybox1.volume, and that value, as we take the return statement here, now we assign the value to a return variable wall and print this particular volume. So similarly, you go for the call with the object mybox2 dot volume and assign it to the variable wall. ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, when you have this return statement, that you are going to assign the output of an method to a variable wall. Okay, so this is the concept of parameterized method. So next you come for the next topic, that is constructors. So this video will be ended here. So remaining you have constructors and garbage collections and this keyword. These three concepts will be there inside the classes chapter. So I'll be ending this class. So if you understand the concept is very well, so if you have any doubts while reading, you can contact me. So thank you.